So it's 7 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the council, rather, the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in council chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba. This 13th day of February 2024 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, looks like we're all here, myself, Reeve, Gade. We also have Councillors Burick, Blosha, Kushniryk, McGregor, Neely, and Zbirun. Our interim CAO, Pat Ellingson, is here. Our videographer, Jeremy Bergen, is here. And so far as yet, we have one guest in the gallery via telephone. We have no one away, so we're going to jump right into adopting the agenda at number 2. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 13th day of February 2024 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, someone to second. Councillor Blosha. Does anyone have any additions or changes to the agenda tonight?
Do we have HR in camera?
I believe we do, but let me check.
Can we add it if we can?
I do not see it there, but yes, we will add it.
Yeah, thanks.
So we'll change this to adopted as amended. Any other discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. The elusive item number 3. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on January 23rd, 2024 be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk and Councillor Zbirun. Copy of the minutes are attached to the meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Does anybody need more time? Were there any errors or omissions found in the minutes that should be corrected? Any further discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Number 4, Public Works Report. Copy of the report is attached. I'll run through it here quickly and feel free to ask questions. This is the Public Works Report for February 13th. It's fresh this morning. Grader Unit 56, Ralph's radiator had a leak, had to be repaired. We took it to the Orton Radiator Shop. We also quoted a new radiator, but it was far better deal to have it repaired than a new one, so that's what was done. We took it there, and we also went and got it back. So we didn't pay freight because we were kind of worried about shipping damage, so we just ran it there and ran it back. The trailer we spoke about last time around, the 2013 14-foot dump trailer, has been picked up. There were a few minor repairs to do, and it's ready to go. Unit 54, Chris's grader was returned to us. That's the one that had the warranty work to be done. Taken a few weeks back, was in Winnipeg while they did the work. We had a spare unit. We didn't make a whole lot of use of the spare, but we had it just in case something else went wrong, because we could see if we didn't have one, that would be when it snowed 4 or 5 feet. But it's back now, the spare has gone away. Unit 205, the garbage truck, has had a few issues with its speed sensor. It's fixed as far as we know. I'm not sure I completely understand what they do in those trucks, but without the speed sensor, it was having trouble knowing that it could do a regeneration because it didn't know if it was moving or not. So that is supposedly fixed. They're still watching just in case. Related to the garbage, the dumpsters are here. They've started placing them in Benito, and I believe somewhere in the meeting where also, it was later on today, I got a text from Scott that they have also been placed at the Bozeman transfer station. So the dumpsters are there now. Gravel map has been completed, at least version 1. It's here tonight if anyone wants to take a look at it. And we are accepting input from council, obviously, too, on that. If there's roads you know of, quite a few of them are marked already. And we do need to continue the discussion about maybe some further work on some of those roads beyond just normal graveling to try and get them in a little better shape. Gravel crushing around Birch River area. So this is something new to some of you. We talked about it a little bit the night of G8. The contractor we had last year, their contract expired at the end of December, but we had some unexpended money in the budget, and we're desperately short of gravel on the north end. So we paid them for 8,000 yards in December still that they had to finish off in the beginning of January. They are in the Birch River area, and they're working for a highways project up there with gravel. It's fairly good clay content compared to what we see in the Big Woody pit. So Scott went up, he checked the gravel, looked at it for a while, decided it was far better quality than what we're getting out of Big Woody. So we decided we'd crush 8,000 yards there, it's about half the distance from that pit towards 6 as it is from Bonito towards 6. So it gives us the opportunity to have some better gravel for the haul roads. So we're gonna try that and see how it goes.
It's for road, wards 5 and 6, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Mostly 5.
Yeah, yeah.
And a little trickle in for,
We'll sprinkle a little bit on their way.
sprinkle some in for too.
So, who are we buying the gravel from then? Who's,
So it's Crown land,
Crown
so
land?
it's levied directly to the province. No one actually owns the
so
gravel.
what kind of price do we pay or negotiate or?
I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose it, but ask me in camera.
okay.
And I'll tell you.
Okay,
I think it's the standard levy, but I never
Okay.
checked to make sure, but my belief is it's standard provincial levy, which is substantially less than purchasing gravel.
okay.
So that also helps with the price.
Well, that's
quite a
good.
bit.
Yeah, that's excellent.
So, you know, the
Excellent.
first few miles of hauling are essentially free after the levy is less. Unit 41, the 2014 870G, is going as a spare right now. It's a bigger unit than the Cat 140, but as you know, we're not pushing a lot of snow right now. So the thought was pull it out for now, run the 140 to get some more hours on it. Because we're trying to get up to warranty hours before the warranty expires for time. So that's why it's out at the moment. There's a little bit of work to do on it as well. And I think some of that work they have to quote for having someone else do. From what I gathered, some of it we can do and some of it may have to go to Burick or someplace.
You could work on the 870s, what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This 140, is that the one we bought in the winter here?
No,
A
that's the
year
one
ago?
that came, it was brand new,
2 years ago?
oh, 3, must be 3 or 4 now.
Oh,
Yeah. I would guess 3.5, 4 years ago.
what did we buy?
Oh, 72, 772.
Oh, okay, that's the one we bought in the winter time there for backup unit.
Any questions on the Public Works report? Councillor Burick.
I know last meeting we discussed the low bed. Remember that low bed you brought up?
Yeah,
And he was
I don't
supposed to
know.
look- Do you know if anything happened to that?
Scott
or-
said he looked, he went to look at it, what did he tell me here that day he was putting chairs together? He was in contact anyway, he was supposed to meet Damon out at the Co-op Agro, he was supposed to be there, but I guess he wasn't there when he got there, so. Whether he's looked at it since or not, I don't know, that's a week or more ago now.
Cause didn't we give the
We
okay
could,
to purchase it?
We could discuss
Yeah,
that
okay.
at a transportation meeting, I guess.
Oh, okay, cause I thought it might be on here, but,
From what I gather, he did look at it, and there were some concerns, but I don't know that it was show-stopping concerns.
okay.
So
No,
it
that's good.
just, it was more discussion needed.
Yeah, okay, no, that's good.
Anything else? We don't have anything under general business tonight, so we'll skip ahead to number 6, financial items. General checks. Be it resolved that the council of the Municipality of Swan West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 19500 to 19540. The amount of $99,620.37. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. I have a copy of the checks with me. You folks have a checklist to get attached to the agenda. Is there anybody that has questions on any of them? Councillor Blosha.
19501, that's for the 23, for the whole, did you work for the whole year in the 23?
Yes.
Okay, no,
I can provide further information on that particular amount in camera, but it is for the whole year,
okay,
and it's not the amount that was indicated under the contract.
okay, so
lesser.
you can
Yeah.
explain it later?
I can.
Okay, thanks.
I'll write it on my list, but you remind me to.
Yeah, that's
case.
fine, no, I was just checking.
Anybody else with check questions? That was easy. There isn't actually particularly a lot there. You will notice, in your water treatment plant, contact projects for $9,700. That one is probably worth a minute of discussion. So we had them out to repair a leaking pipe. I have the listing here. So they worked at the water plant, did the piping repairs, installed some fittings, some pipes, butterfly valves, and then they also returned to the site to finish up the next day. They looked at the DP2, am I right in believing that's the gas pump. And this says DP2 here, for repair estimate. Look at the jockey pump, there's one of them that's not working correctly. So they are going to get a price and then figure out when it could be installed to get that back in service. There's a little more work to come there yet. But the piping work has been done, so there's no longer a leak in the water plant. Councillor Blosha.
Just one more question. So go to 19527. That's the OSS checks.
Correct.
Not that there's anything wrong with the checks. I was just wondering, do they charge us that monthly?
So it depends a little bit on the schedule. It's every 2 weeks. So occasionally you happen to catch 3. So this particular one has a scheduled service for the 12th of January and the 26th of January, plus rentals. So this would be the fairly average amount.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm asking is because I know for a fact that those Benito school bins are never full. So I wonder why they're picking them up twice a month.
We could probably turn that down if you think they'd only need it once a month.
Well, I just, not that I'm not, shouldn't say that, haven't been there in January, but honestly, there's not as much recycling going on as, they would not ever fill that bin.
So the rental there, to have it there,
The one bin there?
the rental's $27.30 and it costs us $95.30 when it's picked up. So if we went down to once a month, it could save $95 a month.
I don't know, it's just something that should be looked into, and I'm wondering if anywhere else in town is like that and they're just charging us to pick up an empty bin. Just be something to watch.
Okay, we
Right.
will see it going on the list, so we will look into it.
Yeah. Like I understand the landfill ones, yeah, they're probably full, but.
The landfill, not necessarily,
I think
the
the
in-town
health-
ones are getting
the
very
health
full,
center
but,
maybe.
yeah. The landfill, there's been some discussion of whether one of the landfill ones should move to Benito, to try and alleviate the stress on the ones behind the office there, because they've been filling more rapidly than normal
Yeah, well,
the
that would
last
make
couple
sense.
months. Any other questions on checks tonight? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Payroll checks. Be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 303 to 317, the amount of $24,281.82. A mover, please. Councillor Zbirun, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Blosha. Copy of the payroll checks are attached, but not publicly visible tonight, so only the councillors can see them. Are there any questions about any of those or concerns you wish to discuss?
I just had a question, it might be
Sure.
immaterial, but 108 hours, is that because of the way the calendar goes, to pay twice a month?
Yep.
I don't think they're going 108 hours.
Those more days in the pay period. Yeah.
Yeah, there's more, sort of an overlapping,
Just the way.
it might be 2 or 3 days from 1 week and then 2 full weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought that's what it was,
Yeah.
but, okay.
Any other questions? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That's carried. Budget 2024, we're skipping over for now. I suspect we will not have time to return to it tonight. We're here to discussion item 7.1, the new rink in Swan River. Attached to the agenda tonight is a letter from the Swan River Council. It discusses, it's from the chair of their Recreation Cultural Services, Councillor Byron. Discusses the new rink. In the letter, it suggests that they have heard concerns from partner municipalities that not enough information was being shared. It says that this letter in the attached report is to essentially provide an update to all of their partners. And I think everybody in council's read it already. There's also an update from the Legacy Committee, basically explaining from inception to this point. Additionally, there was a presentation at the G8 meeting last week to do with the rink itself and what was going on there. It would be hard to say that much information was shared at the G8 meeting. Probably less was shared there than is actually contained in this written report. For those that are interested, both the letter and the report are attached to the public agenda, so anyone can go and have a look at those and see what it says. The Coles Notes version is that they are at a point where they wish to expend pre-construction funds. And the town so far has committed $1 million on 50-50 cost sharing. So half of that will come from the grant received from the province, half of that will come from tax dollars for Swan River. But the committee feels that $1 million is not enough. They're looking for up to $1.5 million. So they're looking to figure out where the extra 500,000 comes from. The discussion at G8 was that it could be from other municipalities or other entities in the valley, or else fundraising. We discussed at G8 at length what exactly $1.5 million is for, to try and understand that a little better. What they've indicated to us is that until that money is expended, they will not know the cost of building a rink in Swan River. So essentially they'll spend $1.5 million, and at the end of that they'll have drawings for the rink, they'll have an actual budgetary amount, and at that point a decision would be made if the rink was to be built or not. Which, it was a tough sell at G8, that it's going to cost $1.5 million to have some basic idea of what the rink would cost.
That's like engineering plans and
Yes.
ground.
So we'd have the plans.
Ground
and-
inspection.
Because that money is never, I mean, if they decide they're not gonna build the rink, that money's spent, it's gone, like
That's
they're
correct.
never gonna see it.
The G8 discussion got fairly lively with some of the other councils. And so some of the questions that were asked that were somewhat pertinent was if it wasn't possible to come up with a ballpark figure for the rink of 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. Surely something within a round number of millions could be found out without spending the 1.5 million. The committee indicated they didn't think it was possible to come up with a ballpark amount. They were pushed on a little further. The discussion moved to the Minnedosa rink, what it cost. The committee said they weren't aware of what it had cost. So someone in the audience shouted out the number.
13 million.
13 million for Minnedosa. And the discussion went on for a while about if the committee had asked for any other communities that had built a rink in the last 2 years, once construction costs really changed after COVID, and they indicated that they had not. So,
Cody's building a new rink.
yes, they are.
Do we know what it's worth?
We do not. And neither do they.
It looks pretty nice.
It does look really nice.
Who's building the rink?
Cody.
Cody.
So,
It must be more than just a rink. There must be more in it.
yeah, it's really nice looking. There wasn't certainly anyone that put their hand up that evening and offered to give the additional $500,000. So the question was asked, I asked it, is there an ask? Do you have some plan of how you want to pay for this? Are you asking the other municipalities for money? What do you want to do? You know, like, lead us to the water so we understand what you're here for. They said they did not have an ask, that any municipality that wished to be involved could contact them directly and discuss with them how they could be involved. So, does anyone want to entertain a discussion on this?
What are we getting out of this rink?
A write-off.
Yeah. Just our own personal thing saying that, well, we helped build a nice building that's not in our RM and,
The letter from the town indicates that if they cannot reach an agreement with partnering municipalities to pay for ongoing operational costs of the rink, it is unlikely to be built. So I guess, as I read the letter, and you know, certainly letters are open to interpretation, what I read of it was unless Swan Valley West, Minnetonka's Bozeman, and Mountain come up with some agreement to help pay for the ongoing operating costs, the project likely will not proceed. So,
We do that now, but how do we know what the operational costs will be? A new arena would likely wouldn't be any more than the one that's there now, I wouldn't think, but be more efficient likely.
the only answer I can give is that after $1.5 million is spent, there would be an estimate of what the costs would be.
Would be what?
There would be an estimate of what the costs would
Oh,
be
yeah,
after the money
right,
was spent.
yeah, once that's what they're saying, I guess I can't say until I know.
I don't know the official amounts, what I was told by committee members is that so far fundraising has raised $65,000.
In the letter it says 60.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
60.
Yeah.
So somewhere in that neighborhood has been raised towards the project.
Yeah.
Certainly, again, not here, but in conversation with other municipalities, it's been suggested this is likely a 14 or $15 million rink. And so far 65,000 has been raised locally, but they do have a $3 million grant from the province. And the town has indicated they're going to match that. So that would be 6 million of the 15. They indicated the night at the G8 meeting that they had not yet approached any corporate partners because they felt it wasn't right to approach them until the $1.5 million had been spent. So the theory is, and this is crystal ball stuff, you would likely see maybe Richardson, maybe LP, maybe Saptwick, or Specific all come on board and provide money. So I don't think, I don't want to leave the impression that they're short $9 million and have no idea where it's coming from. But as of today, they don't know where the $9 million is coming from, but they expect to find it either through more granting or through more donations or through corporate sponsorship. But the letter is pretty clear on it being a twofold thing, not just finding the money, also finding partners willing to pay for it on the way. So, I don't know where you folks want to go with that. I know we've had some discussions, I think one-on-one with everybody, and I have a pretty good view of everyone's opinion.
Like, we're ongoing expenses, we help with that now.
Technically, we don't anymore, because our agreement has expired and the town has not come to
Oh,
negotiate.
well, yeah, but I mean-
Presumably,
In the past.
yes, in the
Okay, let's
past.
say, it's all, ever since I've been here anyway, so, I don't know.
But it's like-
Would we consider discontinuing that?
Well, it's like we said, I mean, we have our own halls, we have our own rink. You know, like, we need to start taking care of our own stuff before we start.
Yeah, but the other side of that, Byron, is you have it in Benito, and we do, you know, we do take care of that. But the people up from the Swan area and north and even somewhat south, they would utilize this arena more than the Benito one.
Okay,
you know?
so what are we gonna get for, say it costs us, over the course of this building, it costs us $5 million. What are your taxpayers gonna get for their hard-earned dollar?
No, I was talking about ongoing expenses, not capital
Okay,
expenditures.
okay,
You know,
okay, yeah,
as
yeah.
we've done in the past, operating costs.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as capital
I didn't see.
investment, I don't know how that works if it's not in your municipality.
It's just a donation.
I
If
didn't
you don't
see other
own part of it.
municipalities jumping up to help Thunder Hill just yet either.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody pretty
And
much
lots
sat on
more,
their,
like honestly, a lot of users are from the town of Swan
Oh,
River.
oh, I understand.
So
that.
I just like,
Yeah.
wanna
No, I
see,
know.
I just wanna see equality.
That night,
Yeah.
there was a question from one of their counselors, what their share was, to that magic carpet. So I think when she found out what the share was gonna be, she maybe, I don't know, what you got?
Well, I just wanna
But-
see some, and like we're talking a splash park, which would be wonderful, and things to better our side as well, but there's places to put in too.
So, where I'm going to go with this, if no one wishes to bring forth some sort of resolution on this, and we cannot bring forth a negative resolution. We can't bring forth a resolution that says we will not do something. I would suggest we will just table this. And we probably won't bring it back to the table unless a request is received from either the town or the committee. They've indicated at this point they're not going to be sending the request over. And that may change as their process goes on. But they indicate that unless we called them, we probably wouldn't be involved in it. And I don't know that from talking to all of you that there's support in this room for us to call them and offer money tonight. So I think probably we'll just leave it and see where it goes in the coming months. And certainly we wish the committee well. Swan River would have a wonderful new facility, but at this particular moment, unless I've read the room wrong, I don't think there's anything for us to do tonight here.
There could be some bigger donations coming, or who knows, you know.
So that, hopefully there is, and I think they're hopeful of that too.
What's the plan with the old arena, once the new one's built, tear it down, or what are they
I would
doing?
hope not.
No, I was in it the other day, took kids from school down there, and it's a lovely facility, I think, but
Personally speaking, just me speaking, if they would actually start looking after it today,
yeah,
that facility would make an excellent soccer field or something else. You know, there could be lots of things done there, but that would require starting to look after it now, rather than letting it continue to rust. And the current, I took the best try I could at discussing how we prevent rust in Benito Arena with them, and there was no interest in having that discussion. So I'm hopeful they do that, because certainly when I read the reports and spoke to them, their feeling was that it's rusting away because of the current conditions and it'll be destroyed soon. But it doesn't need to be that way. I think to 135 Fifth Avenue that had a hole in the roof, and for a $5,000 repair on the roof or a $50,000 new roof, would have been a building they could have sold for a couple $100,000. And in the end, they got a few dollars for it at auction, and the next person repaired it just fine, but they wouldn't look after it because they wanted a new town office. So I hope I'm reading that wrong, because it would be nice if they looked after the old one. 'Cause it certainly, if you think of indoor soccer, would that not be full? I'm sure it would be, right? If that could be converted to a field house of some sort. You know, it wouldn't have to be 20 degrees in there. If you could get it 10 degrees and it's already insulated fairly well, boy, there could be a lot of winter sports held in that facility without it having to have an ice surface. Anything further on 7.1? We'll go to 7.2, Animal Control Officer's Report. Be it resolved that the Animal Control Officer Report for January 2024 be accepted as presented and that payment be approved. Is there someone to move that? Councillor Neely, and someone that would like to second. Councillor McGregor. Copy of the report is attached. Brief synopsis: complaint of a dog at large in Benito. No dog was found. Complaint of a dog at large in Benito a different day. Dog is located and impounded. Notice was posted. Owner contacted, came to claim the dog. I'm sure paid an impound fee when they did that. Bless their heart, and that should remind them to keep their dog at home. Responded to a complaint of a sickly looking coyote in Kendall. There was some concern that the coyote may have rabies. Between animal control and our office, we have spoken to DNR on that. They feel it does not have rabies. They feel it's a case of mange. They were hoping to locate the coyote so that it could be
Dealt with.
dealt with. There's a good word. Additionally, in Kenville, complaints of dog barking and running at large. There was a discussion had there. That will play into a bylaw enforcement issue we will discuss in camera. And a live trap was retrieved from a previous complaint location. No dogs were captured. However, there have been no further complaints. And sometimes leaving a trap where people know there is one also encourages people to keep their animals at home. Any questions or comments on the Animal Control Officer's report? Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 7.3. So we have a resolution prepared. Councillor Burick indicated before the meeting he wanted to move a resolution on this, and this was also discussed at G8. So I'll read this, but certainly we can edit if we want. Whereas crime is growing in the Swan River Valley, and it is imperative that our council provide a safe environment for our citizens to live, work, and play, and whereas the Swan River RCMP detachment has indicated that it cannot allocate time to write search warrants, arrest drug dealers, and destroy criminal networks in our area without additional resources, and whereas the 4 municipal councils of the valley have agreed in principle to share the cost of creating a general investigative section within the Swan River RCMP detachment, and whereas council recognizes that this initiative will drive criminals out of our area and help protect our children and all residents, now therefore be it resolved that the Municipality of Swan Valley West agree to provide our share of the funding required for the GIS unit in collaboration with the town of Swan River, Arm of Mountain, and Municipality of Minitonas-Bozeman. Councillor Burick, do you still wish to move?
yes, I move it.
Does someone wish to second the resolution? Councillor Blosha.
And I'd like to have a recorded vote on that.
That we can do for you. Let's open up discussion on that. Who would like to go first? Any discussion at all?
Just one thing,
Sure.
if everybody participates in this, I believe I heard a figure of $34 a year per person in the whole
I think 66, wasn't it?
66 to 67
Oh,
per person.
okay.
66.
But, there's a big but. So the worst case scenario is $67 per person in the entire area.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But typically speaking, the contracts for RCMP protection receive a 30% discount. And the thought is this will be the same. Now that isn't signed and done, but the request has been made and it's seen as a formality that there'll be a discount. So if that comes to pass, there'd be a 30% discount from the $67 amount. And there has been further discussion and a delegation of the heads of council will be traveling to Winnipeg to meet with the Minister of Justice to discuss potential additional funding, which would bring the cost down. So if none of that happens, it's $67 a person.
If it happens, it's about $50 per person.
It can only come down from that.
Okay, well, that's, just if people ask, you know, it's nice to be able to say it's only $50 a person a year for this protective service.
Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, we have a request for a recorded vote. So if those that wish to vote yes could please indicate now. I will get this recorded. I'm going to also vote yes. That appears to be all of us. Thank you.
So you'll send a resolution to the town and that we pass it already?
We will.
To the town in Minnetonka and Mountain so that they already know.
Yeah, a copy will also
Yeah.
go to the minister as part
Yeah.
of that meeting. 7.4, sorry, anything else on 7.3? We're good with that? 7.4, be it resolved that the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2021, as prepared by MNP LLP accounting firm, be received and approved as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk. Someone to second the resolution? Councillor Zbirun. I have a few highlights. Council has had a presentation on this previously. The only changes that were made related to the Benito utility. Those changes were properly allocating according to the approved Public Utilities Board allocation formula, the costs of employees in Benito. Previously, there's $1 in the swear jar.
Is it ring, can you hear it ringing?
Yes, I can hear it ringing.
Oh, sorry.
Very loud. Can I hear it ringing? What? Can you hear it ringing? Ding, 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 ding.
Previously, there had been some calculation errors in those expenses, so an employee had been included in those calculations that's not part of Benito in any way. So it resulted in about a $20,000 change to the utility, so the loss isn't as big. Overall notes for the public that's watching along, in 2021, and this is 2021, so remember the year there, we're a little behind in having the audits done, but we'll proceed on with 22 now, and then eventually we'll get 23 done as well, and hopefully all before 24 is due. There was a loss of $12,466 in the year, but there was also a profit of $776,449. So which is true depends on your method of accounting. The profit is under the accounting standards that we're required to report in. The loss is in the accounting standards that we're required to budget in. So it's a cash loss of $12,466, whereas we have a profit on an accrual basis. With the loss, there was $286,124 contributed to reserves. Typically, that would have been a little bit less to bring that loss down to zero, but that's just not how that year worked out. So, you know, while it does show a loss, it's certainly not like we actually ran out of money. That money ended up in a reserve account instead of being there to make it be zero. The LUD was of interest as well. In 2020, which is the year prior, the profit at the LUD was $43,595. In 2021, the profit was $31,705, which isn't typical to be posting such large profits. But in 2021, there was a reserve contribution of $47,215, leaving an actual loss to the LUD of $18,010. So typically that loss would then have to be accounted for in the next year with increased taxes. However, there is an unspent amount in the LUD, which has neither been contributed to reserves like normal or anything else done with it of $56,581. So the loss is simply marked against that and does not impact on taxes. The LUD reserve account balances, which I know a lot of people ask about, the machinery reserve at the end of 2021 sits at $55,654. Gas tax sits at $123,717. The general reserve at $192,066 for a total of $371,347, plus the unspent money, which brings us to about $425,000 in the LUD. But I caution a strong note, those are to the end of 2021. There was a contribution made from the LUD since then of $100,000 towards the utility. So that's certainly not what those balances are as of today, but those are the audited balances for the end of 2021.
And a contribution to the new garbage truck.
Yes. Yeah, so there has been definitely some changes since then. Does anyone have any discussion, questions, concerns about the audited financials? A copy is attached to the agenda. You'll note, if you're reading this at home, the very first line says privileged and confidential, but what's attached here is not privileged and confidential. If some of those forms were completed, it would be, but everything that's attached here is perfectly fine for general knowledge, which is why it's there publicly. And the council did review this at length one night prior to those changes to the utility. Does anybody have discussion?
It'll take some time to read it all.
You want some time?
I just got it this afternoon, I didn't look at it till later, but
From my understanding, I didn't go through every line, but my understanding is the only changes from what we reviewed were on page number, we'll find it here. It would be Schedule 9, page number 35. And the change related to the administration costs. This administration, no, purification and treatment is what came down by about $20,000. Previously, that had been a little over $80,000, and that was that extra labor that was the landfill attendant had been attributed to the water plant, which didn't help out much. And there was some additional overtime that was unrelated to water that had been contributed to the water utility. So it does still have a loss. Upon approval, we'll have to apply for a deficit authorization for public utilities because we're showing an operating deficit of the utility of $52,158 for the year, which is better than expected. The budget had been to lose $104,000 that year. So it's not great, but it could be worse.
now that the rates have been adjusted, this should,
Yeah, because this is still 2021
Yeah,
before
right,
any of that
right.
happened. Yeah. Does anyone want more time, or are we ready to move on?
Move on.
Okay. We'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That's carried. 7.5, recycling bins in Benito and garbage. This is here for discussion. So as you know, we have the new garbage truck. We also have some recycling bins. So the crews have started to place those now for commercial pickup. So the thought process that's going on right now in Public Works, and I wanted council's input, was that we would move from 2-day-a-week collection to 1-day-a-week. Currently we collect residential only on Mondays, but we also collect commercial on Mondays. And then on Fridays we collect only commercial. The reason for that has been commercial usually has enough garbage to canvas full. The dumpsters are much bigger. So the thought is that the dumpster would be able to hold the whole week. Rather than running out and doing garbage twice a week, we could do it just on Mondays. And we would collect everything. And we believe that will work fine for commercial, so they don't need the second pickup, which will save some wear and tear on the truck, obviously. The second part of that is the truck does not fit well down back alleys. And I don't know how familiar you all are with garbage collection in Benito, but we currently do curbside and back alley pickup at most locations. So we go down the front street and pick up anybody that puts their garbage in the front, but then we also go down the back alley in case they put their garbage in the back. So as a homeowner, they can choose to put the garbage at either side, and we pick it up either way, which in many cases causes us to go past the same houses twice, and they have a choice of which way. Public Works would prefer to go to curbside pickup on the front. The thought was we would do that unless somebody has huge objections to it. We'd provide a phasing in process. So we were thinking that the best way would likely be to attach a notice to anything we're picking up at the back, because some people do put the garbage cans in the back or have a facility for them there. So attach a notice there and give a couple weeks notice of this is what's going to change and when. And presumably we would see less and less back alley pickup, and if there's still one or two stragglers, deal with it.
The commercial will still be on the back alley.
Yes, yep, in the dumpster. There's also been a discussion that there are a few residents that probably aren't able to bring their garbage to the curb. And the thought was that in those cases where warranted, Public Works would walk up to the house. And they've done that in the past. There's some places they do that already. So we're not suggesting we would stop that. You know, if it's somebody with a mobility issue, for the extra moment it takes, we'll go grab it. But we would like anyone that can to bring it to the front.
But we'll still do the greens pickups in the back alley, because that's where that's always been done.
I would think
Only
Okay.
so.
with the trailer now.
Because I didn't
Yeah.
really
Not the
realize,
same truck.
no, I know, but I don't want anybody to think that would change, because you don't want your greens sitting in the front of your
And
yard.
it's probably, we
All
should probably
here.
include that in the notice.
Yeah,
Just, we'll
Just
make
so
clear
that it's
when we
made
do
clear.
greens, it will be in the back.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a different.
I
code
don't
for that.
think many people will have trouble with
I don't think it's gonna
switch
be a
to
big deal,
open.
but it's, you know, I didn't want you folks to get phone calls saying, what are they doing? Without us discussing it here first. Okay, everybody's okay with that? We'll get Public Works started, they'll pick a date that works for them, for doing the transition and give people some notice and make it good.
Put a notice in the post office and stuff like that.
Possibly that too, although most people that are doing Front Street already,
Yeah.
you know, it's just the few that are not, we can target them pretty easily. 7.6, this is destined for in camera, but we'll speak to it for a moment before that. As you know, we had an incident with a hydrant in Benito. So the public can't see it, but there's a letter here from our lawyer discussing that incident and the process for which we're going to recoup that money from the individual that caused the damage. So we'll review that further in camera. The belief is that the damage will be a little less than $15,000, but not by much. By the time we account for everything, including the repair of the hydrant and the lost water and all of the time it's taken. But we must refer the rest of that to in camera, unless anyone has really simple questions now. Okay, to in camera it goes. 7.7, Swan Valley Folk Fest Committee. We have a letter attached. This is from Swan Valley Folk Fest. You might recognize Jillian McGrath from Northwest Regional Immigrant Services, who's helping head this up. Planning a 2-day event, May 31st and June 1st at the curling rink. It's last held in 2018. Normally it would be every 3 years, but COVID, of course, has delayed that, as with everything else. Admission prices, they say, are being kept the same. They're curious if we're willing to offer a donation to them. 2018, their expenses were about $44,000. This year, they think the expenses will be nearer $55,000. There is an attachment on the back that is their financial statements, as per all of the, let's try to get the grants here. I was looking to see if there's anything clearly here that showed the grant from us, and I didn't see it. Do we have any idea what, if anything, we gave them in 2018? Yeah, that was my view, is I have no idea either.
No, I don't.
I guess the first question is council of the mind that you would like to donate anything to this event? And then if the answer is that is no, we don't have to discuss it further. If it's yes, we'll have to then look into a process for determining how much. The event doesn't happen for a couple months now, so we don't need an answer tonight. But we need to,
Maybe table it and something to
we
think
could,
about,
yeah.
something to think about. yeah.
If we could find out if we gave money in 18 and how much,
okay,
give us a ballpark, you know.
I think the path of least resistance is we would like to ask Jillian,
Yeah.
rather than
yeah.
trying to go
She
back
would be
how
able to
many
tell
years. Yeah, we'll ask Jillian if she
Yep.
can speak to what we did last time, if anything. Okay, let's go to 7.8, Northwest Regional Immigrant Services, also Jillian. As council is aware, each year we provide a grant to that organization. Typically, the amount is $4,000. It has been the last few years. I can advise that the Immigrant Services has indicated that instead of just the town of Swan River and Swan Valley West, they will now receive funding from the arm of Mountain. And discussion is ongoing with Manitoba's Bozeman for them to also provide some funding. The point of the local funding is that it provides them some wiggle room. The program is almost entirely based on provincial and federal grant money that has some fairly tight requirements for what they can and can't do. So occasionally someone comes in needing help with a form that isn't a form they're supposed to help them with, or a business comes in needing some help, and again, it's something that's not exactly fits the criteria. So what they do is they help anyway, but then for reporting, they charge that little bit of help to the local money so they don't lose funding from the provincial and federal government. So it gives them the ability to do a little more for the local area, and it also leverages the funding from the other providers, which is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars and several jobs in the valley. So certainly the $4,000 investment to have a couple jobs in the valley, plus help people settle here and hopefully fill some of the job vacancies we have is pretty good. Does anyone have questions, concerns? Are you interested in providing funding this year?
Personally, I don't see why we wouldn't. In the past, I think it's a good thing. So, like I say, we're not having enough babies anymore, they said on the national news, so we're relying on immigrants to.
Councillor Neely, could you help us with that?
No.
There was a day maybe. But the immigrants are filling the gaps, I see they're even teaching English and everything else here.
It's a very busy program. They do some great work. I sit on the sub board there, sent by you folks. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I can put in our budget 4,000 or 5,000 or whatever.
Be resolved, the Municipality of Swan Valley West approved funding of $4,000 to Northwest Regional Immigrant Services Inc. for 2024 and provide for the same in the 2024 financial plan. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Burick beat you to it there. Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? That's carried. 7-9 is my chance to take a break. Councillor Zbirun has been out doing some research for us and wants to share some information on a possible solution for roads.
This here is Green Earth. It's road reclamation. They do it mainly down south on the oil roads, like the truck from hauling from
Oil fields.
oil fields and whatnot. They say after it's done, it's just like pavement. No dust control needed. They did a mile stretch in RM west of us, and they checked the roads yesterday, or the day before. They had their council meeting yesterday, and they said that road is clear. There's no ice, no snow on it. Everything just runs off, melts off. He said you drive along, and you're driving in snow, and then also you go to this, and it's just like night and day. It's just clear. And I was thinking we're having trouble with that road past the Pioneer there. Be a good place to. It would clean up the dust. It would give it hard pack there for the trucks and. But if you guys know of some other place,
It's about 1,000 feet there. You mean just where we put the calcium?
Yeah,
Yeah, about 1,000 feet.
but they do a mile at a time, eh?
Okay.
And it's about 250 a
Dollars?
mile. Yeah.
How much did you, what?
250,000.
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah. But it's good for 8 years, 8 to 10 years. You don't have to do nothing to it, maybe grade it a little bit in the springtime.
What about
You don't grade it when it's dry, you wait for rain if you need to grade it.
What about heavy traffic, Byron? Is it
That's what it's
restricted?
for.
Is it
That's what it's-
restricted or it's for heavy
No,
traffic?
that's what it's for heavy traffic. Something to look
Yeah.
at, I don't know if you guys would be interested in this.
Edmonton.
Pardon me?
They're out of Edmonton.
I guess so, yeah. If anybody heading towards York, then like I could take a little detour and check the road out themselves, or send Scott, I don't know, or you know, whatever, or go take pictures, whatever.
This road that's done in, you say next door to us, what is it? It's a high traffic road?
Yeah,
or
it's a
what-
high,
What number road is it or what?
I don't even know the number of the road. But
We'll get like a map or something and circulate it so we
Yeah.
can, next time anyone's by that area, we can go take a look.
yeah,
Would be a good idea. Not that
I
we'll
just thought
stop
maybe
either.
it'd be something to, I mean, like I said, that road that goes
Yeah.
past the Pioneer, if a guy did that mile, did half a mile, did another half a mile someplace else, I don't know if they would do that. Just something to think about.
We certainly, it's a lot, but if you think about what we put for gravel and calcium every year,
Yeah, like
that
there's,
adds up too.
they tell you what they want you to do, like for gravel, and they want you to pick up the shoulder so that there's drainage off, you know, no more that inch on the side of the road and whatnot, and then it takes them about a week to do a mile.
Can you have any traffic there, or do you have to
Well-
detour for a while?
I think you can, but that's another thing we'd have to look into, because like I said, if you're gonna stop traffic going to that elevator, they might kinda, but in the long run, I don't know how bad that road is, like,
Oh, it's a solid road, but it's just dust, we need dust control every year.
Yeah.
But twice sometimes we apply calcium there, because it's a busy road.
Yeah,
It's a busy road. But as long as we test her out in Ward 6, that's fine.
Take it out of your indemnity. Right?
Let's just do the mile right up to Brian's house.
Yeah,
See how that goes.
Oh, it's a mile, yeah, it's about a mile, yeah. Mile, 250. I didn't say 1,000, I just said 250. Yeah, no, that's,
We'll see, we could probably get a copy of that made for people too. And we'll get a copy for everyone, we'll get a location where that road is. So we can go take a peek and see what it looks like. Be good. Anything else on that? Let's move to 7:10. Whereas Scott Telecom Services proposes to construct a telecommunications tower on behalf of Explore Communications to improve coverage in the area, and whereas a request has been received to utilize an existing approach to the site off Route 218, therefore be it resolved, the Municipality of Swan West, having no objections, hereby grant approval to the above request as attached. Copy of the letter and maps are attached. Essentially, this is at an existing yard site. They're wanting blessing to use the same approach that's already there to get to their tower, so it doesn't impact us. We don't have to add a culvert or anything else. They prior requested approval to build the tower from us. Given our zoning and such, there was no requirement for us to approve the tower, but we did ask that they make sure that they follow proper construction
And
techniques.
this is on private property,
Sure is.
this is on 218, I wonder where though, like it says land description there. doesn't
north
it?
of 218.
It is with approximately a mile to the west of the Pioneer Elevator,
Yeah,
roughly.
west on the south
Yeah.
side of 218. About a mile or mile and a half.
Mile and a little bit,
Yeah.
not exactly,
I looked
it's
it
just
up
one of those
online.
subdivided pieces there. There's a bunch of
There's a bunch
subdivisions.
of,
on
yeah,
that.
little subdivided things. This is this, what do they call this, ExploreNet, is that?
That's right.
Yeah.
So our other option here would be to require them to have a separate approach, and we would then be required to provide the approach and the culvert at our cost. Just to, nudge you along on where we should go with this.
You're saying we don't have a problem with this, right?
No.
No.
So, let's just pass it and rumble.
Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Neely, seconded by Councillor Blosha. Any further discussion? Yes?
No, then move it along.
Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Those abstaining?
No, I vote yes,
Oh,
sorry, I
thank you.
vote yes, no, absolutely, absolutely.
711, You may find this similar.
Yeah, I know.
Whereas the municipality of Swan Valley West has received an application for approval from Bell MTS to directional drill cable under PR 275 between Road 172 West and Road 171 West to place a new pedestal on the south side of the highway. Whereas the council, the municipality of Swan Valley West has no objection to the proposed work to replace a temporary cable in order to provide permanent improved service to the ratepayer. Therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West grant approval to the above mentioned work. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor, there you are, Kushniryk, and someone to second, Councillor Blosha, Councillor Burick, that's better. Copy of the right-of-way application is attached to the agenda, complete with the map of where the cable's going. Oh, sorry, the map isn't here, just the application. There is a map if you want the further details on where that cable's going to sit. We can get you a copy of that. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Bozeman Landfill has made an appearance on our agenda tonight. I kind of spoiled the surprise earlier. 5 dumpsters have been placed there. We've also been provided with a key for the site, so we're able to empty those dumpsters at our leisure. So that will be replacing the current collection system we have there now with dumpsters. We've discussed that previously at council, and council provided verbal blessing towards that.
So there's five?
There's five yard dumpsters, so
And
25 yards.
And how often are they gonna dump them?
Once a week is the plan.
Once a week? Because the dump is open right now, 2 days a week till
That's correct.
March, I believe.
Yeah.
Then after it's 3 days a week.
And we'll see how it goes.
That's good. Perfect.
So that should resolve
Yep.
the
That should-
concerns there, we hope. We'll see. Anything else on 712? We'll move to 713, Benito District Recreation Committee meeting. So this is a little more complex. There's invoices attached here from the Recreation Committee for various things, some peak performance roofing improvements to the facility. There's labor for installing a new gas range, and there's a price of a new gas range. So this totals just over $7,000 of invoices. We received a request to reimburse the committee for these expenses. The request was received after the 2023 fiscal year had closed, and we had stopped spending money in it. But the request was for 2023 money to pay these bills. So this kind of has a more complex source of where the request came from. As council knows, we budgeted $10,000 for recreation in Benito with the idea that any projects that came up and were presented to council would be approved on a case-by-case basis to use that money. We paid out of that money for walking at the recreation facility because they refused to open the facility unless we pay them each night to go there with a key and open the door. In spite of the fact we give them $56,000 a year for their insurance, there's an additional charge for seniors to go walking, so we paid it over the $10,000. And then no other requests had come from the committee. So ultimately, we paid $5,000 of that money towards the Benito drop-in center for some upgrades they're doing. The remainder of the money became part of accumulated surplus last year and has been transferred into general reserve. So the money has at this point all been expended. So there is no remaining money from 2023 to fulfill this request. And I think the confusion came in that after the fact, they sent us an email wondering why didn't we send them a $10,000 check. We said, well, as you know, we've explained, come to us with a project, tell us what you want to do, we'll approve it, let's do something. And they didn't. I have requested a meeting with their committee for myself. The CAO is intending to attend as well. They have indicated their next meeting is March the 4th. It's a Monday at 7 p.m. We have been invited there. I was suspect as a delegation, I don't know how the meetings work, but we'll be attending to further discuss their concerns over that and just in general get an update on the facility and such, and sort of try to work that out as we go into budgeting what the plan is for this year to see where we're going with it. So that's going to be ongoing. Does anyone have questions or comments?
The
Councillor Neely?
$7,000, we can't pay it can't pay it for 2023, but can we pay it in 2024?
Presumably,
Budget for
like
us,
this
or-
might seem harsh, but they're grown-ups. They had a budget. They apparently approved and paid this on their own. and then after the fact came to us and said, well, we give this the money back. Well, where were they?
Well, it was just a question, I don't know the
We-
whole
we can do-
history on it. but-
We can do anything we wish as council.
And I'd also like to see the previous years, so it was actually $15,000 that they, where was that spent as well? So did you carry it forward or did you spend it all? Because they hadn't,
They had a surplus.
Yeah. so just, anyway, just questions to ask, not saying that you're not,
I want to, that's.
not saying that
that's
you
what I
don't want to pay
explore.
it, it's just we want to see,
Yeah, what's going on?
yeah.
Part of that is Benito and District Committee does an amazing job running that facility, there's no question of that. There's been a lot of talk in the community in the past few days about the Minnetonka Arena, because there's talk now of selling it at auction, and using that to repay money that is owed to the municipality by their board. Because they owe the municipality of Minnetonka about $146,000 the past few years. So, this is nothing like that.
No.
I just want to assure people there is no, the committee in Benito owes us nothing. They have never owed us a bill. This is a completely different situation than is playing out in the other rink. So that's why I want to attend a meeting, so I can talk with them and get us all on the same page, so we don't get into a he said, she said, some sort of battle, because they do such a good job. We want them to keep doing that good job. But we just want some clarity on, I think on both sides, so that both sides feel like they're being heard and we have a plan.
It's been a battle there for,
See, they, in the springtime, I believe it was in the springtime, they were talking about this new stove and their fundraising and whatnot. And I did go in and see Scott, and I told him, I says, there is money there. Talk to, phone and find out. I said, and he never said one way whether he was gonna do it or not do it, and I just left it at him. I mean, that's in his,
Absolutely.
so, but the rest of this stuff, it's news to me.
Yeah, and they, like, when this arrived, first an email came saying that they'd received money the previous year and hadn't last year. And that isn't entirely true either, because they received the 2021 money so late that they didn't deposit the check until 22. So they, I think, in their book saw that as a donation in 22. But the 22 money was not expended except for the seniors walking. And then in 23, we did the same thing and said, if you have something come to us, we want to approve it on a case-by-case basis. But then it got to be January of 24, and they said, well, we never got the check we normally get. Well, no, because, and so then the next response to that was simply a pile of invoices brought to us and said, yeah, these are for you to reimburse us, which wasn't exactly the arrangement we had. So, anything further on that? We moved to 7:14, you'll find it's related. I wanted us to have a little discussion on the financial requirements for grant recipients. We're a little bit all over the page on this, and I think it would be good for us to come into some agreement on what we want to do. The town of Swan River has some fairly onerous requirements, and I'm not suggesting we go that far. In the town's example, they've been requiring, accountant produced financial statements from some groups. And for some groups, that's been a problem, because the cost of producing those statements is so high that it eats up much, if not all, of the grant provided by the town. So the accountants get rich, and that's good, but it doesn't really help the group. We have a mix of things going on here. So some groups provide us a statement of their profit and loss each year, which we circulate at council. Some groups provide us a little more, an actual financial statement. Some of those are audited, some of those are not. Some groups don't provide anything to us and simply look for money. And the recreation center in Benito would fall into the latter category of not a lot of reporting goes on for the amount of money going there. What I would propose is certainly not that we begin asking for audited financial statements. That's not the intent. I would like to see us seeing a profit loss from anyone that's receiving a grant and a generalized statement of what's in the bank. If you have reserve funds or not.
did we not do this years ago? We asked people to provide that.
There isn't anything that we know of on the books making it happen right now.
we did something. Quite a few years back, we asked them to provide
Well, usually they do.
some paperwork before they
Anyone,
could
lots
give,
of them
before we
asking
would
for,
issue it.
but like he's saying for 4-H and that, no, they don't. So
Well,
make it across,
4-H.
but you gotta make it across the board, right? That's what you're saying?
Well, and I'm not suggesting like, I think we're only asking for what they already have. I'm not wanting to
Yeah.
have to go create something new. I don't want them to go to an accountant. I want whatever because every group has some semblance of a budget. Show us that and show us if you have reserves. Because the
Yeah.
budgets generally don't show that. They'll show what they're doing in the year. But if you have $10 in the bank or you have $100,000 in the bank, I don't think there'll be no hard and fast rule that, oh, you have reserves, we're not giving them. We just kind of want to know where people are at if we're supporting them.
We're somewhat responsible to have some paper trail too.
Well, and some of the, with the organizations, when we get into the Rink and Manito, if those folks were to hand in the keys, it would be kind of nice to know before that happened that they were in trouble and we should be doing more for them. Right now, we don't really have a picture of if they make money or lose money, or if they have reserves or don't have reserves. And it's hard for us, because I don't think any of us want to be in a position of running that rink. We like that committee running it quite nicely, but encouraging a little more reporting would be good.
Pass something, any donations over $1,000 or more, something to that effect.
There used to be a requirement under the Act that any donation more than $5,000 required certain things. That's been removed. So there's no longer a provincial requirement of that. There used to be. So any group that got more than 5,000 had to provide. And that was why Northwest Immigrant Services only asked for 4,000. Because they asked for 4 from each place to avoid having to provide those statements that had to be audited, though they provide them anyway. But
They
that
did
was-
ask for more money a couple of years to get those statements, just so you know that the municipalities have paid it again, paid more than just the 4,000, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if you went at $5,000 and $1 and up, 'cause we don't get many above that. Like, we wouldn't wanna have statements on the Cheetahs group and stuff when
No.
they want for their roof, and we don't, I don't know what number people would feel comfortable with, but
One of the ones that's kind of in my mind is cemeteries, and that wouldn't capture them. But when I attended that meeting at the Durban Cemetery, it was somewhat eye-opening what's going on up there. And so, like cemeteries, we fund fairly exclusively, and yet really in the case of pretty much every cemetery that we have operating, while they ultimately fall to our responsibility, we have no idea what's going on. Thankfully in the Durban case, we found out they had substantial reserves that built up, which is good. But then the question becomes, okay, so how much should be sitting in reserves at a cemetery board with us writing a check every year into their reserves and fattening the reserves by hundreds of dollars a year if the cost of operating the cemetery isn't actually what we're providing to it. So we're kind of missing that oversight on those types of things. Or maybe we don't want it as a decision of the group.
so cemetery is definitely not for profit. Why don't we just submit to a mass cemetery fund? They submit their invoices and we disperse that way.
From what I understand, they're probably not structured enough to be able to accomplish that.
So, volunteers, all that time to do and stuff.
And that's
changes.
why their operating costs are lower, because volunteers put the fuel in the lawnmowers, volunteers do it.
I think the Durban example,
Benito's a little different because.
I'm not trying to take shots at Durban, but the meeting they had was the first meeting they'd had in probably 10 years or more. And they don't actually know who's on the committee when they had the meeting, because no one could remember from back then who was there last time. So we're not talking about extremely structured groups, but there are groups that have bank accounts that are municipal money sitting in them that we don't maintain signing authority on, and as those get to be larger and larger, sometimes you wonder if we're doing our due diligence.
So places that have, or organizations that have a facility that is big expense, like the halls and all that.
So is it our responsibility to hire somebody to take care of the cemeteries, or?
Ultimately, we own them.
When the volunteers disappear.
Which is part of the Zbirun meeting I was at. It was a lengthy meeting, and we looked at all those sorts of things, because the question was, is someone going to look after it, or is it going to fall to the RM? It's much like Benito, look after Benito, but we wouldn't necessarily have to if there was a committee of people that did it. Same as the Rink, ultimately the Rink belongs to the council as well, but thankfully there's a committee that does it all, and we just let them do it, and it's great. Durban Cemetery, most of the cemeteries are like that, but they're all, many of them have expressed concerns that their volunteers are older or not able to anymore, and should at some point one of those committees not be able to, we get a phone call and they say, guess what?
All yours.
Yeah. Same thing with the halls, if you look at the Lavender Hall, places like that, in many of those circumstances, we technically own that building and land, and they have a committee that does it, and we hope they do it forever, but we saw that with Alpine, that it just didn't go that way, right? And the same with the Durban Curling Club a few years back, when that was no longer functioning, it becomes, and we're seeing that right now with the Kenville Hall and the Kenville Curling Club. We're kind of the backstop that has to deal with it when a committee goes away. You want to put some thought into that for a couple of weeks? Talk it over with some people, see what you're thinking? We'll come back to it. We don't have any correspondence listed or any unfinished business listed. That's probably not entirely true, but there's no unfinished business we're going to pick up tonight, at the very least. We'll move to committee reports. We will start with Councillor McGregor and committee reports and communications. So certainly anything you have to share or questions you want to ask. If you say there's been absolutely nothing happening in your life, we're going to give you more work.
Library meeting. I was somewhat concerned as to whether we're gonna get a budget done there. Seems to be a lot of trouble booking a meeting and keeping it. And I kind of voiced my opinion on that the other day rather strongly. Well, we have a meeting on, I believe, on the 22nd. Hopefully the budget will be, there's some, the bottom line is there's gonna have to be some, my feeling is there's gonna have to be some cuts in some of the spending in the areas in order to meet their budget. We'll see how that goes.
You mean cut in hours, or?
Well, yeah, I think, my opinion is one in Swan is overstaffed. I'm just gonna say that. I don't know if I should or not, but
It's your opinion,
I
you're
don't
allowed
think,
to
I don't
say
think
it.
they're gonna make gonna make that budget if they don't realize they have to.
None
And
of
there's people asking if the hours are gonna go back to their regular hours, like when it was way overstaffed. I don't think they understand that we can't go back down that road.
none of the library discussion for budgeting has been in camera at that committee, so it's all fair game here. Anything else?
Nothing.
Councillor Neely?
Just the G8, G4 get together. Most of them, I guess Brad and RJ weren't there, but the rest of us were pretty well all there, so imagine that'll get covered here.
Byron?
It was a fairly good turnout there, I think. It looked like not too bad, so.
Anything else?
No, that's the only meeting that I had.
Councillor Zbirun?
G4 and G8 meeting, lovely supper.
That's good. I like the orange cheesecake. It was
Yes.
particularly delicious.
It was really good though.
Was it? Good. Yeah, there was another one that had nuts, just in case. You know, if you're thinking of running for council, get to go to G8 meetings. The dessert was really good. Anything else, Councillor Zbirun? Councillor Burick?
I attended 2 Swan Valley Planning District meetings where they were reviewing the plan, updating it, I guess you could say, 22nd of January and 26th. And that's all I attended, but our Reeve attended seminars they had, or whatever else, whatever, yeah.
Single meeting.
So I'll let you talk about that, because that could take a while. And then I attended the G4, G8 as the rest of the guys did, so.
Could you tell us which Simpsons character you were at the planning meeting?
My teacher, my favorite school teacher, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah, Mrs. Krabappel.
Pardon me?
There was a role-playing session at
Oh.
the meeting, and Councillor Burick was Mrs. Krabappel.
Okay.
Playing.
Uh-huh.
Anything else?
No.
Councillor Blosha.
I also attended the G4, G8 meeting. Got a few calls about roads when it was melting and that. So there's a road 212. I'm gonna check the gravel map, see, make sure it's on there. Also, the road I live in is pretty bad, but I did mention it to RJ. It's his ward, so. And yeah, that's about it. So I'm just gonna check the map tonight before I go home, make sure it's on there.
Councillor Kushniryk.
Just our RISE meeting the other night, and you'll tell us about that shortly.
Is there any appreciation from you that my list is this long to go over?
No.
And you're like, oh, there's a meeting I went to.
Yeah.
Alright, anything else?
Do you have any Tylenol?
No. You can suffer. So I have a few things to report on. Since we last met, it's been 3 weeks, so it's a little longer list than normal. I was at a medical services meeting. Discussion there is surrounding the school outreach that we're looking at doing in the next few weeks to a few months. The idea is to get into the schools around the grade 7 or grade 8 mark to start talking to kids young about the fact that we have careers in the valley for medicine and that there's ways to help them out. If they are wanting to be a doctor, we can certainly help them out and make sure they get the right courses, and we can pay for some of that schooling for them too if they're willing to come back and be a doctor here. But not just doctor, nurses and healthcare aides and a variety of things. There was some discussion at our committee if grade 7 and 8 is appropriate. But the reality is in grade 9 you're already making those course selections for what you're going to be. So to give you a year or two to think about it, what experts are telling us from university level is that we should actually be there in grade 4 and grade 7. So the committee's foregoing the grade 4 at this time, but thinking we're going to go talk to grade 7 students. In Swan River it would be grade 7, and outlying communities it would be 7, 8, just because of how the classes work, which is fine too. They all get to hear the message. That outreach will be geared towards that age level, so we're trying to make that fun and interesting and have, you know, a gift bag they get to take home to spur on some conversation with parents about, hey, look what I got at school today and this is why. So mom and dad maybe talk with them a little bit as well. So work is ongoing on that. Healthcare aid retention packages are likely going to be distributed yet this week. They've been created, they're done. We're just arranging a press opportunity for presentation of some of those to some healthcare aides. We'll have a few healthcare aides, obviously not all of them. There's 121 healthcare aides that will be receiving retention packages. Unlike previous retention packages, they're not cash-based, it's not a check. They're instead receiving the opportunity to explore our valley and feel even more at home than they do already. So each of those healthcare aides will receive an opportunity to attend the Thunderhill Ski Hill, make use of the new chalet and go skiing with their family. They will receive an opportunity to go to the bowling alley and have some time with their family bowling, and they will have an opportunity to go and check out the Credit Union Aquatic Center and enjoy our pool. Many of those people have lived here for a long time, but some are new. So for some, those will be new experiences, but for all of them, it will be our way of saying thanks for being here and being part of the healthcare system. So that's ongoing. Budget planning is almost wrapped up in that committee for 2024. This will be the first time that committee has created a budget in recent to mid-lengthy history. There's been some changes in how that committee works now. There's some more structure there. There's actual resolutions and budgets and things happening. The good news is that because the interest rates are so high on everything we pay, the committee is actually making quite a bit of money on what we have in the bank. The money for the CT scanner isn't yet expended because it hasn't been completed, which means we're still earning the interest instead of the health authority having the money. So all of the work that we have done up to and including those healthcare aid packages has actually been paid for by the interest on the money in the bank last year. So that's a very good thing for us. On the CT scanner front, you've probably heard before, but the latest update is that it is due for June operation. However, that's a conservative number. The thought is first patient likely will happen in May, but could happen as early as the end of April. Construction is ongoing, the scanner is arriving shortly, but the timeline is such that if the scanner is late and if something goes wrong, by the end of June, the first scan will occur. When the scanner arrives physically in the hospital and the committee is able to see it, the first $500,000 will be expended to the health authority. When the health authority provides proof of first scan, I did extend your offer to be the first patient, Councillor.
No problem. Is that a brain scan?
Yes, yeah. Upon first successful scan, the second 500,000 will be given to the health authority. That will conclude our involvement and begin the operation of the CT scanner. Some staff is trained already, additional staff is being trained, so there should be plenty of operators here for it.
I heard
Five
five at the
operators.
meeting the other
Yeah.
night.
By the time it opens, we should have 5 operators here, which presumably will take the wait time for CT scans in this area down substantially, but also help out for emergency scans. There was a fire board meeting, which others of you were at.
We block our time with you out.
Yes.
When was the fire board meeting?
There was some policy review, mutual aid discussion happened there. Outside of that meeting and after, I've received some concerns from the Minnetonka-Bozeman Municipality about the mutual aid agreement. We've already passed it here. The thought is it's a fairly good agreement, but they do have some concerns. They're centered around the billing if they're unable to provide a response. So there's been some negotiations on that, and probably representatives of the fire board or somebody will be attending a Minnetonka-Bozeman meeting in the near future to kind of explain the thinking behind the agreement and what can be done. One of their concerns is that they're under contract to provide service to Wellman Lake, to the province. And so their concern is that if they receive a call to Wellman Lake and are gone, and then a call is received in Minnetonka, they don't think it would be appropriate for them to be billed for that. There'll likely also be some additional discussion about a change of coverage area. Certainly there's some of the area around Bozeman that would be better served coming out of the Swan River Fire Hall. And I think there may now be some movement on that to have a discussion at least on what could be done to make sure those people get the first available fire truck instead of getting the first fire truck owned by that particular municipality, which would be good. So that will be ongoing. The fire truck for sale, there was one municipality from Saskatchewan that was coming here to buy it. They in the end found a different one, so they did not attend. There's a Manitoba municipality that's expected to attend in the next couple of weeks to look at it and maybe purchasing it. There's a local municipality that is still looking at purchasing it as well. So that's ongoing. The fire board will be dealing with that. Next meeting for fire board is coming up Thursday night, I believe.
Well, tomorrow night.
Oh,
Valentine's Day.
No,
Because
Valentine's.
Ryan's not going.
really?
Yeah, because Thursday night I have a vet meeting.
Who was
Check the
that?
scheduling, because I think it's on Thursday.
Okay.
Bill, I'm surprised.
Because what the vet board chair
Well,
told
they
me
said
was they
February-
would hold the vet meeting
Byron
first
just
and
said
have
he
it
couldn't
done.
go, that you need to go for him.
No, I wouldn't, I
Back
can't.
up.
February 15th? That's
February
Thursday.
15th, that's Thursday.
So I got 2 meetings that night.
This chair of vet board is also on fire board, and last
Yeah.
I heard from him was there was a plan for that. So
Okay.
you may have to check in with him and see
Okay,
what
well,
that plan
I,
is.
when he told me, I says, the vet board was meeting at 6, I said, well, we'll be done by 7:30 if we could have the fire board meeting at 7:30, can kill,
Mhm.
2 things in one night, so, and he never got back to me, so I don't know.
He didn't tell me what the plan was, and I didn't ask, but talked to him. Because
Okay.
he had a plan to make that work, and that might be what the plan was.
Okay, okay.
Swan Valley Planning District, I was there for a week. It was great. Seriously though, it was a week. Just check the identities when you see them. I was there all week. We did a thing called Plan a Week. So it was an opportunity for Planning District to update the development plan for the valley. It hasn't been done in 20 years. It's required by the province to be updated every 5 years. So we're 15 years behind on that. The old development plan was the initial development plan. They weren't required before that time. So the first time it was written, no one knew exactly what a development plan was going to be, and it tended to look a lot like a zoning map and really a zoning bylaw. And things have changed a lot in 20 years. So the process now is to try and make the development plan less restrictive. So a perfect example is the curling rink in Birch River. Under the current development plan, it's scheduled as recreation. And because of that, well, Councillor Neely, good job. You're not the only one now. Because of that, they're unable to change the zoning to commercial, because while council controls what zoning is, zoning cannot conflict with the development plan. So unless the development plan is updated, it can't be anything other than recreation. So the solution to this is that most communities are being changed to what would be commonly referred to as a general development area. The new name for that is a neighborhood area. So Benito will be part of that as well. So for the most part, with the exception of a couple floodplain areas, the entire community will become a neighborhood, which then allows the decisions to be made at council instead of a planning district in the province. To change the actual development plan requires approval of the province. So for example, in Birch River, to legally make that a fish plant, you would have to have planning board amend the act. That would then go to the minister and take about a year to come back, which is far too hard to deal with. Under the new rules, once this is implemented, the council or mountain would be able to simply make that change on their own and look after the municipality as they saw fit. We held an open house. There were some concerns came up with that open house from some folks that were thinking that we were trying to be more restrictive. And the reality is we're trying to be less restrictive. Even in the town of Swan River, there's a move to be less restrictive. So they have a recreation area, the Northwest Roundup Grounds, that is specified as only recreation and can be nothing else. So the new plan, that will also be part of a neighborhood. So should sometime in the future there be a need to do something different with that land, the town will be able to make that decision rather than it having to end up at the province to change the development plan. Most areas in Swan River that were institutional or recreational will become part of a neighborhood. There'll still be a commercial area and a highway area. There's a lot of work put into the periphery of Swan River, which when we get into planning world is also called Swan River, but it's not. It's Swan Valley West, Swan River settlement, essentially, because we do have a fairly large settlement in our municipality around the community of Swan River. That too is becoming a neighborhood, but with the caveat of a secondary development plan required. So everything that's there now continues on as it is, but a secondary plan does not require provincial approval. What it will require the approval of is the town and the Swan Valley West working together. So should we wish to change an area to commercial that is currently residential, as long as we both agree that's a good idea, we would be able to do that rather than going to the province. So it doesn't change anything that's there now. The current zoning, again, is more restrictive. In most cases, it's set that it has to be rural residential and can be nothing else. And so you'll find where we have some things that clearly aren't following that in that area that are more commercial in nature. This would kind of free that up a little bit. We looked at as well an area in the Harlington area where there's a school and there's really is some development going on there. And in the end, we decided to just leave that as agricultural and change bulk use tables if needed to kind of accommodate those things. It's not typical to find a school in agricultural land, but we can certainly find a way to make it work. So that's ongoing. Draft maps will be circulated in a few weeks' time. A draft development plan will be circulated amongst the board. It'll be given first reading in planning district. And then we will wait on the minister, and that could take anywhere from a few weeks to 6 months to a year for approval. Once that's back, we can pass it. Once that's all passed, then as a municipality, we can look at if we want to make zoning changes in those areas. Certainly in the community of Benito, there's a pending zoning change that would need to be done after that. When we make zoning changes, we have to notify the province, and they will provide input, but we're not required to follow it. So we as community leaders can decide what's best for Benito. And they'll certainly tell us, well, you shouldn't do that. But we can say, well, we know it's best for our community to do it anyway. So that's where we're going. There was a G8 meeting, a GIS discussion was held there. Most municipalities are indicating they're on board, at least in principle. So I think that's going to be something that goes ahead. But obviously our resolution tonight is signaling that we are on board. Northwest Immigrant Services presented as well. They spoke a little bit towards their funding and getting some more people on board. There was a discussion on funding for Thunder Hill. So in Mine Council, they have 50% funding from the province for magic carpet to be installed. They have asked municipal partners, the four of us, to provide additional funding. we've previously committed to our share. The other municipalities have not. So the mayor spoke to it a bit, and then I spoke to it. And my essential message was, make a decision. At your next council meeting, decide. They've waited for months for an answer from the other municipalities. Whether it's a yes or whether it's a no, make up your mind, they need to know. If it's a yes, that's great. If it's a no, they need to know and move on and find an alternate source of funding. Whether that's approaching us for more fundraising or whatever, they need an answer so they can get moving on with the project. There was a side discussion during a break about the splash park in Benito, and there was a municipality that indicated they may be interested in providing funding towards the splash park in our municipality. And they said, are you asking for mud funding? And I said, we're not making an ask. We're not here to say we're going to split that. It's a project we're looking at. But if you wish to contribute to it, absolutely, we'd be glad to have you as a partner. So they'll discuss that on their own and decide what they want to do. It was a RISE meeting. Work continues on the Business Opportunity Guide. Much time at the meeting was spent discussing the Swan Valley School Division. They do not currently have any promotional materials to encourage people to come here because of the quality of the schools, which we do have great schools and we have some great programs. So we've been trying to work with them on creating those materials and making them part of this guidebook. They have been difficult to work with some restrictions about no student or staff member or any staff member's name being included in any of the photographic materials to accompany the book, which is in excess of their current policy. You can open the Star and Times on pretty much any week and find pictures of students in it, because the students have filled out media clearance forms and they have given permission for that. So I spent much of the day negotiating with the school division on that at the direction of the RISE committee, and I believe we have found now a solution that will solve that problem and get some pictures of students actually doing things in a school. The thought was, if you didn't have any of that, it's a pretty boring thing to show pictures of empty classrooms without some sort of doing. So I think a solution is afoot for that. RISE also completed their 2024 budget, one of the first committees to have it done. I'm kind of proud of them. So that will be coming forward to us. Essentially, it's a $50,000 budget for 2024 to be split between the 4 municipalities, 50% assessment, 50% per capita. So our share works out to, I don't know, only 15,000, 16,000, something like that. Library board did meet. I share Councillor McGregor's concerns, at least as strong, if not stronger. There are substantial issues with the operations of that committee, with regard primarily to meetings, meeting held without quorum and decisions being made at it and then having to be backed off and redone. I was in Brandon one day attending to a medical concern and got notice of meeting for 9 hours later. Oh, let's have a meeting tonight. Whoa, that's not how we do things. You know, if it was an emergency, the building was on fire, I can understand it, but you know, the budget was due January 31st to the library. They've missed the deadline. We've missed the deadline. We're both on the committee. But 9 hours notice of a budget meeting when people aren't available doesn't really do much for the committee. So there's been some discussion on that. And there is now an actual planned date with some notice. That's on the 22nd. Public Library Services is coming to attend the meeting. And probably, typically speaking, Public Library Services does not attend a meeting unless there's a reason. So I imagine that they will be here and have some concerns to express about the operation of the library, which may be well-founded. There's further concerns with the budget. And to be frank, that committee doesn't know how to operate a budget. I got put in charge of budgeting this year, so I made a draft budget, and I thought it was a fairly sensible draft budget, and it came with a list of questions at the end of it. Here's a draft, here's things we need to make decisions on to finalize this budget. And then a meeting was held without quorum and the budget was passed. And I said, so what happened to those answers? Did anyone discuss this? Oh no, it's good as is. We decided a 4% increase. But budgets don't just get 4% increases without there being something in the budget to indicate why they would be, right? The budget needs to say what we're going to spend and spend it on, and here's the total for the municipalities, and it's great if it's 4% increase. Maybe that would fly. But you don't just say, oh, it's a 4% increase, but we're not answering these questions and we're passing a budget that's not yet balanced. So there is a budget now, a second version of it, that's in balance. That's the only good thing about the current budget that's in draft. It's in balance. It doesn't answer questions for resolving these perennial issues at the library that just aren't going away. Things aren't well there yet. They're better, but they're not well. There is a move to hire a head librarian, which is probably a good thing. It needs someone to steer the ship. But I think there's, again, this is a very frank conversation. I think there's a view that that's some magic dust that we can sprinkle on the library and everything will suddenly be fine. Let's hire a head librarian and every problem will go away. I don't think it will. We've been accepting applications for head librarian for 6 months now. So far as yet, the board hasn't had a candidate they're willing to hire. So they've upped the rate to $25 an hour, but cut the number of hours they would work. So effectively the rate is $18.75 an hour for a head librarian. And I don't know where you would find someone that would work that. And to be clear on how that math works, yes, it's $25 an hour, but it's only 30 hours a week. So normal people that want a management job would like to work 40 hours a week. So if you're only being paid for 30, it's very hard to find a job that's 10 hours that fits in with being at the library every day, but not working enough hours to be a full-time job. So effectively, you're working full-time for $18.75 an hour. That's going to be a tough sell for anybody. The current staff that are there are expressing loud and warranted concerns about their hours. You know, as part of this process in the last year, every staff member's had their hours cut and cut again and cut again. So what were full-time jobs that people were working 40-hour weeks are now working much less than that. And they're raising some valid points about not being able to afford to have a job that isn't 40 hours a week. If that's their livelihood, how do you just not get paid for some of it? And some of them may not be interested in working in the library and having a side job. So some decisions need to be made by the board about, do we go back to people with full-time jobs but fewer number of people? Do we keep going like this and wait for someone to quit? And then what do we do? And to the point of the head librarian, the current proposals in front of the board would have the budget balanced, but a head librarian hired who would be told, we want you to solve all of the problems here, have more people come to the library, have more people use it, make it better. And when they asked what kind of resources they had to do that, they would then be told they have $0 available in the budget to make any changes to the library whatsoever. And I don't know how that would work out. I can't imagine taking a head librarian job to solve and make and do. I have staff complaining to me that they're having to buy their own cotton balls for crafts for story hour, because at current the spending is so restricted at the library that they are buying their own materials for kids to be able to do crafts there. And certainly when you look at the amount of money the town and Swan Valley West and the province is putting into that library, it's hard to fathom that the staff are having to bring their own supplies in to have crafts with the kids. It's just not something that's acceptable. I can only imagine it's going to be an interesting library board meeting when we hold it, because there's at least two of us with strong concerns. The budget may be in balance, but it's not a good budget that provides for a working library. So something needs to happen. I was here, and some of you were as well, for a meeting with some concerned citizens from the Kenville area. Most of those details will be taken up in camera under some enforcement matters, but they were here, and we thank them for taking the time out to come here and share those with us, because that's how we make things better. In Minnetonus, well, they have some fireworks. So I spoke last meeting about some social media concerns here, so I will offer this. That was not meant as throwing anybody under the bus. It was simply a discussion for our council as to my expectation of all of us to accept criticism from members of the public, because we are public officials and that is our requirement. And I spoke of another municipality that had reached out specifically with regard to if we wanted to work with them on limiting the public concerns being expressed. I spoke at last meeting and said that I had declined the offer. My understanding is since then the municipality has held a meeting at which I was called a liar, because that never happened. So I've been asked by numerous people, I've had meetings with people, calls, emails, to clarify on the record what happened. So I will share that it was a RISE board meeting previous to the one we recently held. Representatives from all 4 municipalities were in the room. It was a discussion that came up, not an agenda item, but did come up at the RISE meeting. It was led by one municipality, and it was summarily shut down by the other municipalities. So while it did happen, certainly we're not participating, not interested. That municipality has now indicated that in their recollection of events, it never happened. I did speak to some of their members of council that were present at the meeting. Their recollection is different than what was presented at their Minnetonka's council. We consider the matter closed here. We're not in the mood to have a fight with the Minnetonka's council. It's unfortunate that it was blown out of proportion. We did have some road issues with the melt, as Councillor Blosha spoke to. All I can share on that is that we don't have a pile of gravel that isn't frozen. There's nothing we can do. And I know it's particularly annoying to people when farmers haul grain, but you have to consider those are business people that have lives and they have to pay bills too. And if there's any possibility to not haul grain when roads are soft, we would all appreciate that. But we get it. Sometimes the grain has to go, and if it has to go, it has to go. And we'll do the best we can to fix those roads up after the fact, but we're not going to start telling our farmers that they should suffer in some way. Hopefully the timing works out better, and the next time the roads are soft, maybe nobody needs to haul anything. The gravel map is there. Over the years, we've had questions from people about the gravel map and the public wanting to see it. We don't have a great way to take a picture of it. It's too big. I've tried taking a picture with my cell phone, it didn't work. If we find a way, we'll share it on Facebook. If not, if you're a person that is extremely concerned about that, I encourage you to phone me, and I will come down here with you at some point and show you the map so you can see what the gravel map looks like. So if anyone wants to take us up on that, they can. On the shared services front, our agreement expired about a month ago now with the town of Swan River. At current, there is no agreement. That has not had any impact on services with the town. We don't expect it will. We wait on the town of Swan River. They indicated they needed some time, and we are waiting for them to call the next meeting on that. It continues to be our intention to negotiate a new agreement with them and enter into that at some point for shared services. What that agreement looks like is subject to us negotiating, but certainly neither party has walked away from negotiations. It's just taking some time to get through them. That finally concludes my report.
Do you have anything else, sir?
The rest is for in camera.
Good report, thanks. Thanks, that was well informed.
Any questions, comments for anybody on anything? Hearing nothing, that will conclude the open portion of the meeting. We will be going in camera shortly. After a break, we'll be discussing the assistant CAO position. We've had some applications for that. We have a couple wide-ranging ratepayer concerns. We have some zoning concerns. We will be discussing bylaw enforcement and the role of the Reeve in the municipality, which no doubt will be one worth some popcorn. But unfortunately it'll be in camera, and I don't know if much of that will come out after. We'll report after the in camera on anything we can. But for now at least, we are in recess while we check the weather, and we'll meet back here in 10 minutes time. So coming out of the in-camera session, I don't believe we have any resolutions to bring forward from that. We did review those matters, and I don't believe there was anything that we're sharing publicly from that tonight. However, while we were in camera, Councillor Burick remembered something he wanted to discuss in the meeting. So go ahead.
Any lots, vacant lots in Benito?
Lots.
Why don't we sell them?
We would if someone was willing to buy them and build on them.
Yeah, like, do we advertise, or do people know, or?
So the new business opportunity guide will have a section in there about the vacant lots for all of the municipalities, including Benito.
Okay.
Also a section on the Northview development in Benito, which is those
the,
new
the
lots.
development too, what's going on with the development? Anything is being done, or?
So far as yet, the lots have been subdivided.
Okay.
So they're all separate title. They can all be sold. There's no water or sewer or road. The hope would be for that development, and kind of where Rise's head is at, is to take this development and shop it around to some developers and say, hey, come build the whole thing. Put the water, the sewer, the lift station in, build 10 houses, sell them, rent them, do whatever. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to one developer about it so far that was interested, except that it was too far from their other developments. They said it's exactly what they would do. They would come in and they might give us $1 a lot, but we wouldn't transfer title until there were houses on them.
Right.
At that point, there you go. Have the title, sell the houses, do whatever. Infrastructure's in, houses are there, we get the tax money. More importantly, we have people living in Benito. So Rise is gonna shop that around for that. They're gonna shop around the riverfront development that the town has sitting. And there'll be some shopping around of those vacant lots. Because everybody has some. Birch River has the most, but everybody has some of them. And many of them are serviced and ready to go. My suggestion to our council is going to be that when the time comes, we bend any rule we have to bend. If that means we build an 800 square foot house on a little lot in Benito, let's build an 800 square foot house, even though our bylaw says 1,000. We can give them a variance for that. You know, fill up those little lots, get Benito full of new houses. We've got the one that's gotta go that we own. I don't know what's gonna happen. The other one's a nice lot. It's a nice corner lot. It would be a beautiful spot for someone to build a new house. If there wasn't a tree through the roof, it would be a beautiful house for someone to be in now. So, you know, those sorts of things we're gonna push as much as we can with Rise.
Okay.
And Rise is pushing for the whole valley. It's not just Benito, but there's a page in that book specifically to the Northview subdivision. Here it is, here it's available, let's talk.
That's good.
And that book is going to be marketed to essentially anyone in Manitoba or Saskatchewan that ever does that stuff. If they have developed something before, if they pull commercial building permits, if they build shops, we want that book in their hands with a phone call or a visit saying, hey, there's this place you need to come see. Come up here. Let's show you around the valley because you need to come build some stuff. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of local developers right now. You know, in the years past, we had 5 or 6 guys that built stuff all the time. Right now, we don't. So we need to find somebody else, or we need to have some young guy here that takes an interest in it and starts doing it. I'm trying to, it's my kid who should build a house in Benito, but he's only in grade 10. He's not quite ready for that yet. But he loves carpentry. That's what he's doing at school, right? Well, a kid like that, if he takes carpentry for 3 or 4 years and gets good at it, he could build a house. And then he could sell it and build another one and just carry on, right? And we need to find that sort of magic. So we do have, the office has the lot list. I don't know if it's a list, a map. We have some idea of where they are, obviously. We've sold a couple in Durban last year.
Yeah, I know.
And those ones weren't necessarily for house development. In Benito, though, I have a hard time believing we'd ever sell something without it requiring building on it. You know, I think the ship has sailed of us just selling you a lot and hoping for the best. I think if you're buying a lot from us in Benito right now, we're going to be saying, and where's your house? And once the house is built, you have your lot.
Yeah.
And we might give it to you for free, but show us the house or you don't have the lot.
So we would be interested in say if somebody wanted to build a little 800 square foot home or
Absolutely.
700 square foot home.
I think so. And if they wanted to build 10 of them, we could probably find a room for 10 in Benito. Because we have the water and sewer already. And the world has changed. There was a time when here in this valley, if it wasn't 1,500 square feet, no one was interested. We have a lot of newcomers to our valley that think 800 square feet is too big.
Oh, these tiny houses that you see advertised, they're a thing, too big thing now. Tiny house.
There's lots of people living here now that 800 square feet is perfectly acceptable. And the valley as a whole is short on starter homes. You know, people that want to come in and can afford just a small house or rent or buy, there's nothing there for them. There's lots of 3-bedroom homes, but lots of them are one person's come here and they're working at McDonald's and there's no place for them.
Yeah.
You know, and Benito has that too. We have employment out there. People come to work at Egg Shield. And even if they have a wife and a kid, 800 square feet to a lot of people looks pretty good if it's in Canada. So there's hope. Anything else on that, or does that kind of answer your question?
That was it, you explained that very well. I need 3 highway signs, like, not highway signs, the signs on top of the stop sign.
Road
Do we order
signs?
them?
Road
Road
numbers?
numbers?
Road numbers, yeah.
Can you get us a list of where? Which ones?
160, 162, and 164.
Can you write them down for us?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it'd be Road 162 west, 160 west, and Road 164 west, or W. Some, I don't know, some have west on them, and some just have W, I don't know why.
It's
But these 3 are missing.
And so where are
On
they?
the 279.
On
On the
279.
PR road, we put those signs up on top of the signs, but they're missing.
He's going to write it down.
Already there.
And he's going to give it to us on a piece of paper. And it's going to say that.
And,
Or even text it.
and then whatever happened, Pat, remember I brought up a couple times already about those street lights? On 279, 49, Pioneer, 218, and I didn't mention the Durban one, but maybe we could even apply for Durban. Whatever happened there? Like,
You can look at this chair, not that one, and it has not happened yet.
no, are we? Should
It's
we
on
pass-
my list,
Should
but-
we pass a resolution to, or you just, we send them
So,
a letter?
what we need to do is quote them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
But do we send a resolution to get a quote, or a letter to get, or
It's my inaction at the moment,
so you are, okay.
because it's on my list, but it has not risen to the position on the list where I've dedicated time to it yet.
Okay. But what do you think of the Durban one? Like, I didn't mention it, I just mentioned those three before, but the Durban one,
I think when the quote comes in for the first couple, you're going to be angry. You're going to say, there's no way. And then we're going to have a more serious discussion about putting streetlights up. My guess.
Do we have to get permission from highways then to put them up?
For a couple of them, not always. Like the museum corner one, that was the one we got the farthest into the process. And essentially, because we're the land use authority, we can have it happen to the highway. And if highways strenuously objected, but typically highways is of the view that any illumination is better than no illumination. So typically they're always going to allow it, but we have the authority to say there shall be a street light, and they say, okay.
I think even the museum one, like you mentioned. The
Museum one's gonna be 15 grand.
How much?
It's likely gonna be 15 grand or more.
It's gonna be more, yeah.
Yeah, like this, that's what it's gonna cost to put a street light in. Is
And then what do we do after that, after the 15,000?
then we keep paying for it,
A month, like a month we,
$5 or $8 a month,
yeah.
depending on the street
But
light.
that's a bad corner too, like we went in to see the Christmas lights there. And you got your lights on dims and you don't know where that turnoff is. You know it's there, but I mean, you could hit the, you don't know where you, like, it's not lit, it's black. Completely black.
Yeah.
Not like, I mean, it doesn't have to be on 12 months of the year, but I mean.
They don't do them for less. Anything else tonight?
No, I think that's enough tonight.
Very good.
They wanna go home.
We're moving to section 12, notice of motion. Does anyone have a notice of motion to present? Hearing nothing, we'll move to section 13, adjournment. Be it resolved that this meeting shall now adjourn at
He's got his mouth out.
10:37 PM. Be it further resolved, the next meeting is Tuesday, February 27th, 2024 at 7 PM. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by, is there agreement that it's
Yeah.
Councillor Zbirun? Okay. Councillor Zbirun, those in favor?
Yes.
That is carried.